Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Today I'm going to be painting Autumn Barn, and I'm sipping on some apple cider. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks such as this one. So this painting that I did today is inspired by a photo that was submitted by one of my Patreon members by the name of Laura Wainwright. I have a benefit for my Patreon members whereby every now and again I'll put out a call for photos. They'll submit their photos and I turn some of them into YouTube tutorials. And as a thank you, I will send the original painting off to whoever submitted the photo. So I hope Laura enjoys her painting. So if you're interested in learning how you too could submit your photos to me to turn into tutorials and or more about the Patreon membership program, because there's a lot of other benefits that you get to use that will help to increase your painting and your artistic skills, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. All right, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, cobalt blue, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, fire red, deep yellow, fluorescent orange, green oxide, and Mars black. And of course you can switch up those colors. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 5 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 0 round synthetic brush. And I might refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I will just call them out by their given name. And of course you don't have to use these same exact brushes. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have some kind of cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as some kind of towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to paint the sky. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are blue and white, and I'm going to be making just a nice light blue, airy, cloudy, drifty, cloudy kind of sky. I'm going to be bringing my sky down a little bit past my halfway point. So if this is about my halfway point up or down my canvas, I'm going to go about almost 2 inches below that. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue. Oh, I'm using blue and white in this step, and I'm using my 3/4 inch bristle brush. I'm going to come about 2 inches past below my halfway point. I have a tiny bit of blue and white on my brush. Just going to give myself a little tick mark. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my brush as a measuring tool to see how far down I made the mark on the left side. And then I'm going to come over to the right side and give myself a mark at about the same distance away from the center line or the bottom of the canvas. Once I've got that, I'm now ready to start painting. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue and a little bit of white on my brush, about equal parts of both. I'm going to start up in the top of my canvas, just applying the paint with kind of a circular type of brush stroke. I'm using this specific brush stroke so I can emulate just kind of these little drifty type of clouds going by. I'm now going to just start picking up white on my brush, on my dirty brush. So what this will do is it's going to allow me to work the blue tones or the darker blue tones off of my brush and end up with kind of a gradient type of style sky. And you can see by using this circular kind of brush stroke, it's giving it the appearance of some nice drifty clouds just going through the sky. The sky is definitely not my focal point on this particular scenery. It is really just kind of background noise. Even down here, I can just kind of go back and forth, left to right, just to get something on the canvas down here. It can even be almost white down at the bottom if you want. I just picked up some of my blue from up here. That's how I got a little bit of more extra blue down in through here. And again, I'm just using it to make it emulate just these little kind of drifty type of clouds. And as it's kind of coming to the end, like I feel like I've got everywhere covered, I can just sit here with a light pressure on my brush and just kind of fiddle with blending it out a little bit more. If I wanted any of these clouds to appear more dominant, I could certainly pick up a tiny bit more blue on my brush, and I could sit here and kind of make the sky a little bit darker behind them, or introduce some darker tones, or conversely you can introduce lighter tones to make the clouds be brighter depending on how dark or light you made your sky. Or if you wanted more blue, I just picked up a tiny bit more blue, just get this side just a little bit more blue. And then I am going to be using, for the next step, I'm going to use my drawing utensil. So once you've got your sky done, fiddle with it as much as you want. We're not going to be touching the sky again. So just, make it whatever way is pleasurable to you in order for you to not feel like you have to fiddle with it again later. And then you can put this brush away, take out something to draw with, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our barn and our road. I'm going to be using my number 2 pencil to draw. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers. We're going to connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we'll have some very basic shapes that we'll be able to use during the painting in process. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step as well. So I'm going to guide you to find yourself the center of your canvas. For me, the center of mine falls somewhere in this vicinity. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from that about 3/4 of an inch and then over to the left almost 2 inches, maybe about 1 3/4 inches, somewhere in this vicinity. That'll be my first marker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a series of vertical lines that are going to represent the 3 corners of my building, and then we'll put the roof on. So from here, I'm going to draw a vertical line, and I'm going to stop about, well, my line's going to be about 5.25 to 5.25 inches long. So I'll be almost 2 inches above the bottom of my canvas, something like that. So the only trick here is you want to make sure that it is vertical and not slanted. So if you have to, you can kind of measure it from the edge of your canvas. So mine is almost the length of my brush, and then just go up and or down, just make sure it's kind of vertical. And then what I'm going to do from that is I'm going to come over maybe about 5 inches or so, 4 or 5 inches. If I come at the same height as my initial line in through here, I'm going to be maybe about 1 to almost 3 inches to the right of the center of my canvas. And then I'm going to come down from that about 1/2 inch. So somewhere in this vicinity. So this is going to be a little bit lower than that one. And then I can do another vertical line that comes at about the same height as whatever you have in here. So I'm going to just take this down and give myself a vertical line and stop it at about the same distance away from the bottom of my canvas as I did this one. So something like that. And again, if you want to check to make sure that you're not slanted, just go from the edge of your canvas. And so that's like right where the head of my brush lies, and then you can just kind of make sure that you're not slanted. Then what I can do is I'm just going to connect the bottom of these two with a horizontal line. So something like that. Then I'm going to put the other corner of the building on, which is going to be far over to the right hand side. I'm almost 2 inches away from the edge of my canvas. I'm about 1 3/4 inches, and I'm about another 1/2 inch lower than this one. So if I follow this line all the way over until I'm like 1 3/4 inches away, and then come down maybe like 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So you want this line to be shorter than that one. And then I'm going to make the bottom of this vertical line higher on my canvas than this one. So again, if I take this and I just kind of go directly across like this until I'm about the same distance away from the edge of my canvas as that, and then come up about another 1/2 inch or so, somewhere through there. So if this line is about, for me, this is about 5 inches, this one is about 4 1/4. So I've shrunk it about 3/4 inch from this line. And if this one is about 5 1/4 to 5 1/2, this one over here is only about 1/4 to 1/2 inch shorter. So just to give you an idea of the how much shorter one is from the other. And then I'm going to connect these two, and then I'm going to connect here to here. So this should end up a little bit of a slanted line. It's just to give you a little bit of perspective on the building. This is almost disappeared. This bottom part almost disappears behind our fence, but just to give you an idea. The next line I'm going to do is from this marker to this marker, but I'm going to overhang it on either side. So just a little overhang on this left-hand side, and just give myself a diagonal line to meet this one, and then maybe a little bit farther of an overhang on that side. So this is going to be our roof line. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself back at the center of my canvas. I'm going to go up from this maybe about 1 inch, 1.25 or something, and then over to the right, just maybe like 1/8 inch, somewhere around here. Again, yours doesn't have to be exactly as mine. This is just a barn. You can make it any shape. That's going to be the peak of my roof. I've got the front of my building a little bit longer than the back. So once I have this marker in through here, I can now connect this to this corner here and give it a little overhang. And then I'm going to connect here to this marker here. So something like that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of my brushes just so I have a measuring tool of sorts. I need to make another angled line that's similar to this on the back end, but a little shorter. So if this is the length of my line here, I could hold it like this and just kind of slide it over till I'm at the other corner, and then give myself a mark that's maybe, I would say, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch lower, maybe somewhere in through here. There we go, that was a little overshot, something like that. So this one, so if I was to go straight across like this, just to show you how much shorter it is, it's not a whole heck of a lot, just a little bit down that line. And just, you know, you want it a pretty similar angle. So just kind of make sure I've got that. There we go. And then I can take this and connect it to here. Something like that. And then I'm going to take these two top marks and connect them. Something like this. So what we've done is just did a very minimal perspective, making the back or this side a little bit smaller than this side. The bottom of the barn doesn't really matter, again, because we're going to be covering it. Now my road, I'm going to have come up this bottom right hand corner, maybe about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to find myself at the center of my canvas again, come straight down, and to the left of that just a little bit, I make my mark. I'm going to move this so I can access it, and then I'm just going to draw myself this long, skinny, diagonal, triangular type of shape. And that's all I'm doing for my drawing. Oh, actually, let me put a little cupola on the top of my barn. I'm going to find myself a little bit to the right of the center of my roof. I'm going to draw myself a little rectangle like this, then a little diagonal to the top of my roof. Go to left of that a little bit, make another little vertical line, and then connect here, and then I'm going to put a triangle on the top. There we go. There's my little cupola. And then we are going to be using probably a combination of our large bristle and our number 6 round for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for our barn. I'm going to use a combination of my large bristle brush as well as my number 5 round brush. The colors that I'm going to be using are orange, red, and brown, and black and white. And I'm going to pre-mix myself a gray color that I'll be using for the roofs, and then I'll be using a combination of my orange, brown, and red for the sides of the cupola and the barn itself. So I have pre-mixed my gray color here on my palette. How I achieve this is just black and white. I'm going for just a mid-tone gray, nothing fancy here. We'll add some fancy stuff to it later. We just want to get some kind of base coat on here. And then once I've got that, I'm ready to start painting. I'm going to actually paint the sides of the barn first with my large bristle brush. I'm going to go to the left-hand side of my barn, and I'm picking up orange and red at the same time. So I'm painting them on in a way that a vertical brush stroke, so I can get these kind of almost like the appearance of wood slats. I'm not doing anything fancy, just making sure that I have this whole barn colored in. And if you don't get the stripe effect because maybe you blended it a bit too much, or maybe your colors are, or maybe you have a softer brush than I do that is creating the colors to just kind of meld together a little bit more, that's okay. You can have a solid color barn. It does not have to be looking like it's got the wood slats like mine. It's totally up to you. Now, I did use pencil as my background, and these colors are transparent, so I can still see my background in through here. I'm okay with that because I'm putting a window there later. But if you're not okay with yours, we also have another step that's going to be adding different tones to this with shadows and highlights and stuff, so that will be covered later. This side of my barn, I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm just going to pick up some red and brown. So about equal parts of red and brown. And I'm going to do a similar paint stroke, but I want to kind of get underneath this roof line first. So I'm just going to kind of bring this horizontal and then vertical. So this is going to, while it's still wet, I can catch that little horizontal mark. And also I know that I'm going to be putting a shadow underneath that roof line later as well. So just understanding what your future steps are going to be can really help you work through the beginning stages of a painting in a more effortless kind of way. Again, knowing that the bottom of my barn is going to be covered by grass and plants and bushes and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to labor over the bottom part of my barn either. But I still want some kind of color down there, so if I, want to just kind of paint it in and then just pull up with those brush strokes. So again, this is brown and red, and I'm just kind of laying on these vertical brush strokes. And then once I've got these on, I am going to switch brushes to my larger my number 6 round, and I'm going to paint these 2 little areas on the cupola in the same manner that I just did here, but the brush stroke direction doesn't matter. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange and red for this left side like this. So just getting myself this vibrant color which is going to help with our, illusion of the sunlight hitting this left side of the building. Then I'm picking up red plus brown without washing my brush. And I'm going to get this right side of the little, oh, I just put my hand in wet paint on there. I'm going to have to correct that before it dries. Light, pressure on my brush There we go. Catch it before it dries. It's very humid in my studio today, so my paint is going to take forever to dry today. So that's fine. Then I'm going to, I don't even need to wash my brush. I'm going to pick up some of my gray. I need to wash it now because I just put my brush in black. I'm going to pick up some of my gray and paint this little top area of the cupola like this. And we'll get this to have much more information on it later. I'm overhanging this little triangle a little bit too, like that. And then I'll use this same brush to paint in the whole roof line. I'm also going to put this this gray, sorry, trying to get a nice easy line there. There we go. I'm going to put a little line on this left-hand side of the roof, so it looks like the roof has a little edge to it, like that. And I'm just going to paint it with this flat gray to start, and no specific brush stroke is needed to get this on because gray is a color that covers really well. I'm just taking my time to get a nice line going in through there, and then I'll work my way around that little structure at the top. And just when you go over to this right hand side, just be mindful that you want this line, oops, hold on, my hand's shaking, this line to look like it would continue over here. So if you have to, I'll show you how you can double check it. Hold on. Oops, this part keeps getting adjusted. You can certainly take like your brush or something and just do something like this to see if it matches. And mine is a little high on this right hand side, so I got to bring the left hand side up a little bit more. Oh my gosh, I just put my hand in the wet over here too. Maybe I should have waited to do this roof. It's all right. Just let it grow. Let it be okay. Be okay with the little mistakes. There we go. That looks better to me. And just go here. Hopefully that area on the side of the barn won't dry by the time I get to, but if it does, it'll be a great spot for a nice leaf from my tree to land to be in front of. I'm just going to go right to this corner here. And as you're doing this edge of the barn, you may run through some wet paint from the siding of the barn, which is totally okay. Just let it merge into your roof color. That'll add some nice dimension to that. And then as I come over here, just going to try and slow down. I'm now bracing my pinky onto the canvas over here and just allowing myself to work right to the edge of my pencil mark, and then just bringing this to a point like that. And if your barn ends up crooked, no worries. It's an old country barn. It's all right if it's got some crookedness to it. How am I gonna fix this right here? I'm washing my large brush. I'm gonna give it a good squeeze on my paper towel, and I'm gonna gently, because my paint looks to be a little wet, I'm gonna gently see if I can brush this out. Oh, look at that. There we go. Boo-boo gone. I'm gonna be using my large bristle brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our landscape. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. I will use my number 5 round to demonstrate how to premix a couple of custom colors. The colors we're using in this step are black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, white, and that should be it. So I'm going to make myself a dark green and a light green. We'll be using that as the base coat for the back. Like there's going to be some dark area back here. There's going to be some dark area in front of the barn. Then I'm going to be using brown and white as my base coat for the road, and we'll make a light green that we'll use for a base coat as grass. And then over here we're gonna have some trees, some fall trees, so I'll use some of that red and orange over there. So I have pre-mixed myself my dark green and my light green so you can see where I'm headed with these guys. So on my palette here is my dark green. How I achieve this is just green with a little touch of black in it. So I'm going for kind of a foresty green type of a color. I'll use this in combination with a little bit of black to get some nice deep tones in through here that'll kind of push back our little farmland back there and make our fall tree pop out. So that's my dark green. I'm going to wash my mixing tool, and then my light green sits right here. How I achieve this is quite a bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and a touch of white. So I'm going for kind of a lime green type of color. This will be the base coat for my grassland, and I'll also probably use it a little bit in my tree as well, or in my trees as well. So something like that is going to get me going for my light green color. Once I have that, I'm going to put my mixing tool away and I'm going to start painting. So I'm going to start with my dark green color. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of dark green. I'm coming up the back side of my barn a little bit, somewhere in through here. I'm just going to give myself a little section that's going to touch my barn, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to give myself kind of an uneven type of section of this dark green color. So I'm really just looking to, this is going to be underneath my big tree. This is going to be part of the background underneath that big tree, but I don't need to make it look like anything other than kind of a color pattern. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black right now, and I'm going to put some dark tones at the bottom of this section. So I'm just kind of dabbing and swirling my brush around to get these various tones throughout this section. Nothing fancy, just kind of allowing myself some texture. I'm not going to be touching this area again later unless I feel I have to for some reason. So I'm going to just kind of get as much texture on there as I can, and if I need to, or as I want to, and then if I need to or want to touch it later, I can certainly pop in a couple of marks. I'm going to use this same kind of color combination. I'm not going to wash my brush. I do have a touch of black on it, but I'm going to pick up more of my dark green. I'm going to put a section of that right in front of my barn. So this is going to end up looking like the barn is kind of shadowing some of the grass. So I'm just kind of putting this on in through here. You can kind of just tap it so you have pretty good coverage. We're going to have lots of shadow on this side of the barn too, so you don't have to have a perfect section, just something that will read as kind of darker. I'm now going to wash my brush. Wash, wash, wash away. And then I'm going to put my my light green section on. So that's going to be kind of from the road, this whole section in through here, leading over in through here. So I'm just going to pick up my light green. I don't need to do anything fancy, but I know myself and I know that I like texture in my grass, so I'm just going to kind of paint it on and then just dab it with my brush like this. So that's going to start my grass having some nice texture. But when I get up to my barn in through here, just going to slow down so I can keep the integrity of the edge of the barn like that. I will be touching my grass again later, because I'm going to be having some leaves and stuff, and I'm going to have shadows, and I'm going to have different stuff on my grass later. So I know that my grass doesn't have to be the way that I want it in the end result now. So I'm mindful of that. As I get to the bottom of the barn, it's okay if it bumps into the barn a little bit, because the bottom of the barn again is going to have, it meets the ground, so there's going to be shadows and lots of other stuff that will be included there. And then as it meets this dark green section, just blend it in a little bit. It doesn't have to again be anything fancy in through there. I'm going to bring it just a little bit over on this side, and then it's just going to disappear behind my barn. So this whole right side and through here the corner of the barn is eventually going to get covered by a pine tree. This area in through here is just going to be a mishmash of autumn trees. So I'm going to wash my brush now, and I'm going to put brown, orange, yellow, and red on my brush. I'm just going to dot in brown, orange, yellow, and red. Just like 4 little dots on my brush right now. I'm going to take and I'm just going to kind of create this speckled kind of color display. And again, it's okay if you bump into your barn because, again, we're going to have something covering that corner. And I'm going to allow this to come right up into where that sky area is. Yours can look different than mine. What I'm not going to do is dot this a million times. I just want to kind of cover the area, and whatever light spots happen, like that's pretty cool, that's cool, I got some dark spots happening, I will use those to my advantage, and later I will just enhance them a little bit more, and we'll have a super cool effect of some autumn trees back there. And then I'm going to wash my brush one more time, and I'm going to put the road on, washing my brush, and I'm going to pick up white and brown, and not a lot because I have a very small area to go. So a little bit of white, a little bit of brown, just a little dot on both corners of my brush, moving my canvas so we can all see it. And then I'm just going to go back and forth, just allowing myself a light colored road that's going to be kissed by the autumn sunlight. I have a little spot here I need to get, so I just reloaded my brush. And then we are going to be using, we're going to use the number 5 round brush for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the sides of the barn and the roof. We'll do the little cupola thing later and the windows later. I'm going to be using my number 5 round brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, red, orange, gray, and white. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm looking to do here is I'm going to be putting a shadow underneath my roof line so I can have a little 3D effect. I'll put a shadow under here, a shadow under here, and then I'm going to just put another layer of these same colors on top of what I already have so it just looks nice and smooth. And I'll be putting little shadows probably towards the bottom of my buildings as well, but more on the right side than the left side. So I'm going to start on this left side here. I'm going to, oh, and I do recommend that your barn is dry before you start this step. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown and a touch of black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride the roof line, and then what I've got to do is pull down that shadow a little bit. So I'm going to take and I just kind of do a line in through here, and then you can either kind of rub it down and just get it to kind of blend down, or for me, I usually find pretty good success on these barns by just kind of pulling it down like this. And I'm going to put a little bit more in through here, start pulling it down, and then if you find that you want it to, it definitely needs to blend in more with the bottom area, what I'll do, I just wash my brush and I'm picking up some of my red and my orange to get it to blend going down into those barn colors. So deeper, darker right underneath where it is, the overhang is, and then you just blend it in with the other colors that are coming down. So again, I'm going to start with a little bit of black and brown. I'm going to put it under this guy right here. Something like this. And then I start just pulling it down. So you can kind of wiggle the side of your brush to pull it down, whatever works for you. You might just want a nice clean small shadow underneath there. That's going to be totally up to you how dramatic that you want it, but just know you'll want it the darkest right underneath that roof line itself. I'm picking up a little bit of black just so I can hit this little corner here, just so we can make sure that I get that little corner in through there. And of course, the darker it is, the more dramatic the light is going to look like it is affecting it. I'm going to now pick up some of my orange and red. And I didn't wash my brush, so I might have little remnants of the black on there. And I'm just doing another coat on here just to give myself the ability to make sure that I have, oops, I just tipped my canvas a little bit, to make sure that I have covered all of my spots. So if you do have a little bit of streakiness that you want to make sure that you've covered, or if you want a little bit more richness in that tone, you could certainly add a little bit of brown on this side, but I kind of wanted this side to look like it was really just drenched in sunlight. So that's where the orange is coming into play for me. I'm going to take a little bit and get over on this side. And to me, the orange is a lighter version of red, so that's going to just really kind of scream as a nice highlighted tone. That looks good. And then down towards the bottom of this side of the barn, I feel like I could get away with adding just a little bit of brown. So brown, orange, and red I'm putting down at the bottom where it's kind of meeting my grass. Not a lot, just a little bit to say maybe, you know, when I put some foliage and stuff down there, it'll read as the bottom of the building. So there we go. That looks pretty good on this side. So then I'm going to move over to the right side of the building, if I can ever stop. So on this right side, I'm going to do something pretty similar, only I'm going to use more darker tones. So I'll definitely be using black to start as my shadow maker as opposed to black and brown. So I just picked up some black on my brush, and I'm just going to go right underneath this roof line. And if you don't feel like you can travel all the way across with wet paint because it's going to dry too fast on you, you don't have to do the whole thing at once. You can just do a little section. I'm going to go all the way across like this, and then I just bumped into my roof, but that's okay. I will take care of that in a minute. Just kind of wiggling it out a little bit in through here. I'm going to wash some of that black off of my brush and just put water on my brush. And then I can just kind of softly get this to just come down the side of that barn. So that looks pretty cool. Now I'm now going to just pick up red and brown to get my second coat on here. And if you wanted more red tones in here, just pull, use more red on your brush. Maybe you want this left side to look a little bit lighter than the right side. So if that's the case, just use a little bit more red over here on the left side. Because we're layering with these colors, with these transparent type of colors, it will show or see the colors underneath it. So you're going to get this fabulous visual effect with these colors just laying on top of each other. So red and brown over here, just making sure I get all the way to the edge. Maybe a little bit more brown up here to maybe make it look a little bit darker up and through here. And again, I know that my red and my brown work great together, so I'm just kind of using this in a vertical way. Again, you could do vertical, you could do horizontal, whatever you want to do on your barn is totally up to you. You can mimic it after maybe a barn that is in your neighborhood or out your backyard, or whatever you'd like, but getting this light side and dark side to appear is a pretty fun thing. And down at the bottom of it, I'm going to pick up a little bit more black and brown, especially on this back kind of right side of the barn, and just get this to go pretty dark in through here. So just kind of blending it on top and with my brown and red. And then I think that looks pretty cool. So I got to move to the roof. So washing and drying my brush. Now all I'm going to do on the roof is make sure that my edges are clean. And I want a little bit of a gradation so it doesn't just look super flat. So I'm going to use gray plus white over here, and then gray plus black over on that bottom right side. So gray plus a touch of white. And again, I'm not doing any shingles or anything like that. I just want to make sure that I have it painted in. So gray plus white over here on this top left to give me a little bit lighter tone over here, and making sure that I have my edge nice and cleaned up. I can't talk apparently when I'm doing the edge. So it amazes me whenever I come to these clean, what I'm trying to do a clean line, how I apparently my brush needs to work all on its own and I can't talk while I'm doing it. So I'm just kind of spinning my brush to get this little soft gray, variation in the colors. As I move towards this right hand side, I'm going to pick up more of my gray just to get this midsection. And then over on the right, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black with my gray so I can get this right side to look just a little bit darker. So nothing super fancy, but because I've created just a little bit of a gradation on that roof, it adds to that perspective. So don't feel that you have to... My roof line is totally morphing right now. It's an old roof line. It's got different little ripples and stuff in it. And I'll put a shadow from my cupola next to the cupola later when I do that little detail. But I'm thinking that that looks pretty good and that I don't feel like I really need to do much more to this roof. So I'm going to call it. I will be using for the next step, I feel like I would like to use, hold on, maybe I want this corner a little bit lighter apparently. For the next step, I would like to use my number 0 round brush. So you can put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the barn. I'm going to be using my number 0 round brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, brown, gray, white, red, and orange. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So this is going to be windows. I'm imagining that the main door is on the other side of the barn. So we're just going to do some various windows and we'll finish this little cupola thing. So I'm going to start with a touch of black and a little bit of water on my brush. So black plus water. So this is going to give me a nice clean line to make my shapes with. So I'm going to put a couple of rectangular type of shapes over on this side of the building. You can really, again, model this after whatever you want. I don't know why it's taken me so long to do this little rectangle. Vertical lines, horizontal lines. So the horizontal lines would kind of mimic, if you want to give it some perspective, the top and the bottom. But my windows are so tiny that if I'm off on my perspective, I think it's going to be okay. I got a little tiny one right in through here. So again, the smaller the windows, the bigger the barn's going to look. So that's a little cute thing for perspective purposes, because I don't have any real, I've got some trees that'll tell you how large it is, but if I put little windows, that might make the barn appear to be a larger barn. I'm going to put a big window on this side, a bigger window, so something like this. You can make square rectangles, you can make circular windows if you want. You can think of these as air windows for cattle or horses. Maybe you have, like we had a barn when I was growing up, and one of the windows was like the tack room where all of the supplies were. So, or the stall windows, you can certainly imagine them wherever you want. So I'm going to put one up here to, maybe this is just the little hayloft window or something. something up here. Again, make them whatever way that you want. This is just a fun part of the process where you get to design these little elements all on your own. I'm going to put some molding around the windows in a minute, but right now I'm going to the cupola thing, and I'm going to put just a little, maybe a wind thing on the top, a wind, I don't know what they're called, a wind indicator. Sometimes they have like rooster type things on the top, or a little horse or something, or the letters for north, south, east, and west. I'm just going to make something nice and generic that will just maybe look like a little cross or something. Maybe put little arrows. You can do, again, anything that you want. It's totally up to you. These are the fun little things. I'm going to take this black and I'm going to put an underline, a shadow line underneath my roof. So just a little shadow line. It's a little skinny one. Something like that. Or as skinny as I can get it. I'm going to have some windows on here too. So I'm going to put maybe one here. And then maybe I'm going to have a bigger one here. So maybe this one will be wider. Like that. And then I am going to, while this is drying, actually I'm going to put a little bit of gray and black on my brush. I want to show the left side from the right side of this top, so I'm going to do a diagonal line from the tip, and I'm going to bring it just to the right of where these two meet. This is going to put some good perspective on my roof. So something like that. I'm going to pick up a little bit more gray and just paint in this right side. So the right side's going to look a little darker. And then on the right side, on the left side, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white. So this left side is lighter and the right side is darker. So it just gives you that immediate little perspective and a little bit of a three-dimensional object. There we go. So once I've got that done, I'm going to come back down to my windows and see if there's anything that I want to do on them. So I'm going to just use maybe a little bit of, I'm going to wipe my brush off, maybe a touch of gray and red. So gray and red. I'm going to just put a little tiny subtle kind of little molding around these guys. So just a real thin outline with some gray and red. You could, of course, do anything that you want. You could make it really fancy and put lots of decorative elements. You could even put, you know, like a cross in it, and that'll make it look like it's a, you know, got like the frame to a window. Up top on this left-hand side, I'm going to use more white as my frame, so I'm going to pick up some white. I don't necessarily want, actually, I don't want it to go super white. I'm going white and brown on my brush because the white, I just don't want it to be too white. Hold on, let me get that. My brush has water all over it and it's driving me nuts. So I have white and brown on my brush to do a molding around this guy. And that's just because I tend to not want to go white all the time, because I feel that once you use white, it's lost. You can't really make it any lighter. So, or I run the risk of making my highlights more difficult. If I want this to have maybe a little extra information, maybe I'll bring some soft lines down like this. I'm going to do the same thing up to this guy, up and through here. So if I do want white on other objects for highlights and stuff like that, if I've already used my white somewhere else, it takes away the power of the bright whiteness. So that's just one of my little tricks. I'm also going to pick up, wipe my brush off, pick up a little bit of brown and black so I can put just a teeny shadow underneath this windowsill. So again, just helping with that, all those little elements. So a little shadow on the outside of that. There we go. That'll make it look like it's popping out just a little bit. Something like that. And then I'm going to go up to that cupola go. Little details, little details. I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna put a little bit of gray and white on my brush. I feel like I want a little kind of border, like somewhere in through here. Just give myself a little maybe part to the roof. No, I like it better the orange red. I wipe my brush off. I'm going back orange and red. So orange and red just went on my brush to get rid of what I just did in through there. I liked it better. I was thinking I wanted some kind of like maybe border or something around that, but around the cupola itself, the bottom portion, but I like it better like this. I'm going to pick up, I just wiped my brush off. I'm picking up red and brown to go on the right side. Again, I'm mimicking what is on the first, on the main part of the barn. So this is just red and brown. And I'm not seeing the definition between these two corners enough. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black to just go right here. So just a teeny bit so I can see the difference between those two sides. I also want to put a little shadow down at the bottom and to the bottom right. So I'm going black with a little bit of brown. So brown and black with a little bit of water on my brush. I'm going to do a little outline down at the bottom. And then my shadow, my light source is up and to the left behind a little bit, so I want this shadow to go over to the right a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of darken this side of the roof just a little bit. Just give myself a little bit of a shadow in through there. And then I think I'm washing my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white with a touch of brown to just put a little molding around this little window. So white and brown. Put a little molding, maybe a little more white than that, so I can get a little more action up and through here. This is a really tiny space, so just a little bit of white is helping me out there. And if you wanted one on the front, just itty bitty lines. And then I feel like I need to put a little bit more white and gray right as it's on this roof right here. Kind of brighten that up a little bit and then brush this back. Just so we can again see the highlight from that light source, and then just get this to blend down. Something like that. There we go. And then a little bit more brightness on that roof, just a touch of white. It's going to give me just a little extra brightness on this edge. And I think that that's all I want to do. I don't really feel that I need too much more. You know, you could pick up a little bit of black with a touch of water if you wanted, you know, the illusion of, you know, the wood slats. Maybe there's, you know, any little soft information you want. You can certainly add these little tiny details. Oops, that was a little bit too much. Or remove them with water. So just any little, you know, maybe there's the ghost of a door gone, you know, in the past, or whatever you want to do. And then we're going to be using our large bristle brush for the next step. So you can just wash it, or just finish this step, make any little adjustments that you want. Put this small brush away, take out your large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for the big tree. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush and the base coat of the leaves for the big tree. So I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are light green, brown, and orange. And that might be it. So what I'm looking to do is put the back leaves on. So my light source is kind of up and over on the left hand side, which is where this bright side of the barn comes from. But I kind of feel like my light source is going to be a little behind the tree as well, because I've got a big shadow of the tree that's going to occur on my grass. So I want some dark leaves kind of inside that tree. Then we're going to put on and a future step, we'll put on the trunk and some branches, and then we'll put on the leaves that are on our side. So I want some darker leaves to begin with. Whenever I'm thinking of an autumn tree, like we're just shifting into autumn, every tree to me starts green. So I'm using a photo reference to as my inspiration today, and I see a lot of green in this orange tree. So I'm going to start with my light green and brown. So I'm starting light green with brown on my brush, about equal parts of both, and my tree is going to come all the way down in through here. It's going to cross over my barn a little bit, and it's going to go all the way up to the top of my canvas. I want a lot of light, like pockets, especially from like the top of the barn up, so you can see pieces of the sky. So I'm going to start pretty heavy down below here. I need my tree to cover the top part of this dark area in through here. So I'm going to be using a dotting technique to stipple my initial layer on here, so I can bring it, I can even show some of these pockets of the darkness underneath. I just want to make sure that I am coming directly towards it or covering that area. So again, green plus a little bit of brown, and it doesn't always have to be the same exact combination on your brush. You just want to you know, maybe sometimes it's a little bit more green, maybe it's a little bit more brown, whatever works for you. I'm going to bring it into my barn. So just kind of giving myself a little bit of an area where it overlaps that barn a bit. You can cover the corner or not, whatever works for you. So something like this, maybe this kind of comes up in front of here. And it's okay if you see some of the barn through there. That's the whole idea. And then as I'm coming up kind of this center, I just want to visually make sure, again, that I don't fill this in too much. So if this is the top of my barn and my tree is going to kind of shoot straight up from here, you could just kind of dot yourself up and just say, okay, well, there's going to be the top of my tree, and then maybe from this kind of area in through here, it doesn't, it's not a solid kind of color. So I could even just sit here with a very light pressure on my brush and just kind of give myself the kind of the idea of where I want it to kind of extend. Maybe this kind of comes out right to here, and then if I get it to go all the way off my canvas up and through here, I can just use the edge of, I hardly have any paint on my brush. This is just going to keep me in control of where I have this big beautiful tree. So now I've kind of got my outline, if you will. I can be really pretty aggressive in this midsection. So again, you could even fill this midsection in pretty much all the way. But as I start going up towards the top too, I do want to incorporate some of that orange. So now I'm going to start picking up a little bit of my light green, brown, and a bit of orange. So all three colors now is going to start creating, or green and brown. Maybe over here I put a little bit more green and brown. So I am using different tones within this initial layer. So this is where I've got this area in through here is where I've got to kind of slow down in my brain and be mindful that I don't overdo this. I want to leave some peekaboo spots of the sky. I'm kind of alternating right now between my green, brown, and orange, and just allowing myself to have some thicker areas, some little peekaboo spots, just a nice tone for the base coat here. And I just picked up a little bit more of my green or my orange and brown. And again, just trying to not overdo it. It's really hard, especially when you just get into it and you're like, oh, I'm having so much fun. I'm just dotting away. it's really easy to just overdo it. So my trick right now is I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, so it's kind of keeping me in a controlled place. When I was down here, I had a little bit more paint on my brush, so it was okay that I was going a little bit more heavy with the application. But right now I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, and it's allowing me to stay kind of nice and controlled. So a little bit more of my orange and my brown maybe up in through here. Just get a couple more darker tones in the center of this tree, because the center can always be fuller than the exterior. So I think something like that looks pretty darn good. Maybe a little bit more, couple more darker tones up and through here. And then I'm digging the way that that's looking, so I think I'm going to call it on this step. I am going to be using, for the next step, I think I would like to use my number 6 or my number 5 round brush. So we can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the tree trunk and branches for this big huge tree. I am using my number 5 round. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, and white, and I think that's it. If I use any of the colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start with black with a little bit of water on my brush. So black with a little bit of water, so I can kind of put my main trunk in place. I'm going to have it coming right in through here. So I'm just kind of building myself a pretty sturdy kind of tree, because it's a big tree. So it's going to have a nice solid trunk in through here. I don't really need it to do anything fancy when it hits the ground. Just kind of get it to blend in with that grass a little bit, but we're going to do another step on the ground anyways to get that finalized. I'm going to have mine really just like a big, I don't know, mapley, oaky kind of tree, just tall and sturdy. So somewhere in through here, I'm going to start, I'm going to put a thicker branch just kind of come in off this main trunk. And then as I build the trunk going up a little bit higher, I'm going to just let it steadily kind of branch out into thinner branches, but I still want to have a pretty solid center structure. It doesn't have to be, like you can see the majority, my tree's over to the left a little bit. I'll probably put some more leaves in through here because I feel like I want it here and it's leaning a little bit to the left. So I'll probably end up putting a little bit more leaves over there, but as I am coming up here, I'm going to start to make littler branches by putting more water on my brush and lifting off on my canvas. So this is going to give me a lot of little thinner branches going up top. But what you don't want to happen is the thick part stops here and then everything is really thin going up. So you want to just make sure that you have some other kind of thicker branches that meet, or that kind of transition into the thinner or into the thicker part of the main trunk. You can also have some pretty solid branches maybe coming off at an angle and then maybe just kind of bringing down these little smaller branches, and this would explain all of these other leaves and branches and stuff over on the exterior. So they can come off in lots of different directions. They can come off, the center can be a lot of pretty straighter branches kind of just wiggling their way up towards the top of the tree, and you can have coming off on the side. I mean, this is tree is not exactly as the photo is. You can certainly bend yours and twist it into whatever kind of tree that you want. So trees are wonderful because there's so much artsiness to them. I love painting them because you can really kind of impart the type of branches that you want and the type of little aspects that come naturally to you as you are painting. So don't ever feel like it has to be exactly, if you're trying to emulate a photo or anything like that, don't ever feel like it has to be exactly as that photo is. I am also going to be covering a lot of these branches with more leaves. So this is just allowing me to get that interior structure of the tree, so that when I when I finalize all of my additional leaves and that bright layer that's going to be coming towards us, you're going to have these little peekaboo spots where you'll see the branches throughout the structure of the tree. So I think that this looks pretty good for the majority of them, and you can always, after you add the leaves, you can always add little pockets of them as well. On the main trunk here, I want to add a little bit of dimension to it, so I'm going to wash my brush, and this is where I'm going to incorporate some brown and white. So mostly brown. I'm just going to kind of add a layer, a chaotic kind of layer, and then I pick up a tiny bit of white with it, and this is going to give me just the a real subtle appearance of some bark on that tree. I'm not looking to make it look really light. I'm really just looking to give the viewer the information that this is not a flat tree, that it has a little bit of dimension to the branches and stuff. And as it goes up into the tree, you're not going to be able to really see any of that detail, simply because it's being shadowed by all of the leaves and stuff. So you could, of course, make it lighter if you wanted to, but I'm thinking that you won't really be able to see a ton of information up in the deep parts of the tree. So I'm going to leave mine a little bit darker up there. And then I'm just picking up a little bit more brown, maybe leaving the bottom a bit darker in through here. And then I think that looks pretty good. Once you've got this done, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more black. I feel like I could go just a little bit darker on this right hand side. And of course you could have yours, whatever shade of brownish brown, tree brown that you would like. But once you have this done, we're going to be, what do I want to do next? I feel like I want to finish this ground. So I would like to use my large bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out your large bristle, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the ground. We still have a fence and a couple of other trees that I'm going to put in place, but I want to get this ground finished so we can just build the fence and the trees around it. I'm going to use my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are dark green, light green, yellow, white, orange, and red. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I might use a little black, but I'm not quite sure about that yet. So I definitely want a big shadow of this tree on the ground. So it's going to take up a big area. So I'm going to tackle that first with some dark green. If my tree is here and my light source is up and a little to the left, I probably have a little bit of my tree trunk kind of shadowing my grass, and then I'd have this big huge area of just darkness on that grass. So it can even come towards the side of the house or the barn, and it's going to just kind of come over this whole grassy area. It looks like in the photo that this might be a little tiny bit of a hill that this shadow is going over. So, and I'm kind of dotting it or rubbing it so you can see little bits of that light green as well underneath. And I definitely want to leave a little light green patch in through here. And then this is going to go right to the road. And then I'm going to put a shadow on the road as well. This comes pretty like halfway into my canvas. Ooh, I see that this kind of comes all the way past this corner of the barn. So Just looking and making sure that I put it where I'm supposed to. So like this, and then a little bit past my halfway point. There we go. So that looks pretty cool. Oh, I like that. Sometimes the shadows are very exciting. I'm gonna, I have a little unfinished spots back here. While I have this dark green on my brush, I'm gonna go and hit these little spots that I didn't know if I was gonna need to or not, but as I'm looking at it, it definitely looks a little unfinished behind my tree here. So I'm just hitting that with a little bit more, picking up a tiny bit of black, just to make sure it doesn't look unfinished. So one layer usually never does it for me, so that's why I like to just prepare for additional layers. Let's see, okay, other dark stuff. So I feel though as though I want to put a little shadow onto the road. So I'm gonna wash my brush and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of, I'm gonna go a tiny touch of brown because it's my road, only darker. So I picked up a tiny bit of brown and I'm just gonna kind of put little, that's too brown. I'm gonna pick up a little gray. I didn't say I was gonna use gray, but I'm picking up a little gray just to put little bits of this darkness onto the road. There we go. Now we look like we have a nice cool shadow on the road as well. Telling you just how large this beautiful tree is. All right. So now that I've got that, I just need to finish up my grass. So I don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot to my grass. I think I'm gonna just use this gray just to kind of finish that little edge. That looks good. I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna put some sunshiny grass on with my light green and yellow and white on my brush. So a little bit of light green, a touch of yellow, and a touch of white, all on my brush at the same time. And this is where I can start to just dot it and give myself my second kind of layer of grass, but with texture in it. So I'm just kind of taking my light yellow, my yellow, my light green, and a touch of white, and any combination thereof, and just tapping it very lightly with the tip of my brush, making sure I get all this little area with a second coat on it. Even back in through here, light green, touch of yellow, touch of white. Just kind of tapping. And some areas are going to be lighter, some are going to be darker. It's all going to depend on what little piece of grass is there, if it's been mowed recently, or if it's whatever. I'm going to be putting some leaves in here too in a minute, but right now just want to get the grass on, because to me, when I'm building stuff such as grass, when there's objects on top of it such as leaves, it's always such an easier building process for me personally to build it as if I'm sitting, like touching that object. So what's underneath? The leaves are the grass is underneath the leaves. So for me, it makes sense for me to just build my grass and then put the leaves on top of it. And it tends to, for me, look a little bit more natural. So again, I didn't do anything fancy to the grass, just added another layer with maybe, my yellow, white, and light green, just to get those, some little texture and pops in it. And then I'm gonna now add some leaves. So my leaves can be, I don't necessarily want them to be super dark, but I could have some darker ones in through here. I didn't wash my brush, so I have yellow, light green, and a touch of white. I can pick up a touch of orange, and I can start just kind of tapping in just little speckles. I don't need this to be anything more than little speckles. So as you're doing yours, if you feel that you want to use a smaller brush to do this, then go ahead and use a smaller brush. But I'm just going to kind of tap the little corner of my brush. If at any time I feel like I'm losing control, like I'm pushing too hard and everything is just too much, you can do a couple different things. Either wipe your brush off because you probably have too much paint, or use a smaller brush. That's, you've got a small detail brush that we used for the the barn. You could even use the number 6 round, whatever works for you. I'm putting my leaves more underneath the tree because I feel like that's where they'd fall. I did some orange ones. I can pick up some red ones, just teeny tiny little dots here and there, nothing super fancy, just kind of allowing myself. You could even put, you know, some of these little tones, you know, down at the bottom of your scenery if you felt that that would benefit you. This little guy over here, I don't really need to do much to that because we're going to have a tree in front of it. I definitely feel like I want some yellow leaves, so I'm going to go yellow with white because my yellow is going to be transparent, so I feel like I need a little bit of white on my brush to break that transparency. And then you just kind of keep fiddling with it as much as you want, at any colors that you want. If you want a different orange, you could certainly make a different orange with your red and yellow. Just have fun with all of these little tones and variations. You can also use a little bit of white. So if I go like white and orange, I would end up with a couple of little brighter leaves that maybe are sparkling from the sunshine. So just know that it doesn't just have to be your orange, and reds and yellows. You can make these lighter colors that will make them look like they are just sparkling from the sun. Not too light though, and just tiny dots, teeny dots. This is, in order for it to kind of look more realistic, you don't need to, especially in a scene like this, you do not need to go all in with your leaf shapes. Just little tiny dots will do you. And then once you've got as much on here as you want, I feel like I need to put a little bit dark green over here. I just wiped my brush. I'm picking up a little dark green. Like I feel like I need to close off the bottom of this little area here. I'm going to be using my, I think I'm going to go with this brush for the next step, my large bristle brush for the next step. So you can just, you know, get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish this big tree. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 5 round to demonstrate how to premix 2 more custom colors. The colors I'm going to use in this step are yellow, orange, brown, white, light green, and red. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I'm going to pre-mix myself what I'm going to call dark orange and light orange, which I have magically done on my palette here. So this one here, I'm calling it dark orange because I used my orange and I mixed it with brown. So it's kind of on the burnt sienna type of side, but it's definitely got its own unique color to it because of the fluorescent orange. It's, I don't even know how else to explain it. It's kind of burnt sienna-y, but with a little more pizzazz to it. So that's going to be what I'm going to call dark orange. And then my light orange, just wash my mixing tool here. My light orange sits right here. So how I got to this is quite a bit of yellow, a little bit of orange, and a good amount of white. So this reads, you know, in person as kind of a very pale peachy color, but I'm calling it light orange just for, you know, ease of purposes. So that's where I'm headed with my custom colors for this step. So once I've got that, just mix this all the way. There we go. So once I've got that, I'm ready to start painting. I'm going to put my mixing tool away. So I'm going to have some pockets of these leaves in front of my trunk and branches. I also feel as though I want to kind of extend this area here out a little further and maybe up and through here. So I'm going to start with my darker colors first, which is mostly going to be my dark orange as well as my light green and brown. And then I'm going to work my way towards the brighter tones, which will be the leaves that are closest to us and maybe some, you know, exterior little pieces. So I'm going to start with my dark orange. Hopefully I'll keep the colors straight too in my head. I definitely want a little patch of leaves over this section in through here. So again, I think the idea here is I can put a good amount of paint on, but because I'm building it kind of quickly like this, I don't need it to be globbed on here. So I'm using the dark tones to build dimension in my tree, but I don't need a ton of paint to do that. So I'm pretty thin with the amount of paint that I'm using in these areas. So it'll help me to layer in a quicker way. It'll help to get this to have the dimension that I'm looking for. Can you even add a little bit down in through here? I definitely feel like I want some more on this guy here, but I still like those green tones that I have. So maybe I'll accentuate those a little bit in a minute. This is where I want to extend the tree a little bit more. So I'm going to use this dark orange. And I'm mindful of these little peekaboo spots that I want to keep of my branches. So we put the branches on there for a reason, so we can see some of them. And so we have a nice believable structure to the tree. So as you're going through this process of putting the leaves on our side of the tree, you don't want to eliminate all of those branches that you put in place. So I'm going to have a couple of pockets on this side. I would say maybe somewhere in through here. So I'm just going to kind of mark off where I want those pockets of leaves on our side of the tree. So something like this. And this dark orange is really exciting me. It's just putting such a warm tone to this tree that's gonna make me really enjoy looking at it and make it feel like it's, you know, just that iconic, you know, autumn tree that has such depth to it and so many warm tones that just, I think, is why we all love to look at them so much, because they just are inviting with all the colors that make them up. So again, I'm still just using this dark orange, capitalizing on its beauty. That is exciting me. Just a little tapping in these little tiny marks. So again, I can still see some of my green in through there. I definitely want to continue to see some of that, leaving some peekaboo spots. I can pull a little bit of this down here, but I don't want too much. That looks pretty good. I think now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light green, plus a little bit of my, I'm just going light green for a second here, because I feel like I want a couple of little areas in through here that might not have been captured on this little edge. So I'm just going light green to get just a couple more little pieces down in through here. There we go. That looks good. And then maybe even cross a little piece over in through here. So I can use this light green to also kind of get a couple of pieces to go in front of some of these branches. So again, just kind of having fun. Maybe a little light green area kind of goes in the middle of the tree in through here, so we can see the diversity in those colors. I definitely feel like I need a little bit thicker on some of these guys over and through here with my light green. So again, just using the corner of my brush to get a lot of these little speckle marks. If you want bigger speckle marks, you can kind of push harder with the main face of the, or toe of the brush, but I feel like this just kind of works well for me as I'm trying to work my way through here. That looks pretty good. I feel as though maybe just a little bit more of my light green up in through these guys, up in through here. Not a lot, just a little tiny, just finessing get them a little bit more solid. That looks nice. And now I'm going to start picking up my light green plus a little bit of that light orange. So light green and light orange. And I can start kind of adding this into these guys in through here. So the light green plus the light orange is going to give me a different kind of shade of my green, because it's allowing me to just kind of add these additional tones into my light green. When I use it with the orange, it's going to give me a different visual effect. So again, I'm just kind of playing with these tonal values in order to give myself these additional little sparks of color throughout the tree. So that allows me to see the bottom of the tree in front of that background. That looks pretty neat. I'm going to use a little bit more of this kind of up in through here, little pockets here and there. And now I'm going to probably just start kind of filling in I want this to still be a little bit dark over there, maybe a little bit here. I think I've got enough of my green kind of spackled throughout here, maybe just a tiny bit going up in through here. So now I think I want to wash my brush to get the green off of it. And then I'm going to start using probably, kind of want to use my dark orange plus a little bit of my orange. So dark orange plus orange. And start kind of building this little guy. So this is dark orange plus orange. So now what I'm doing is I am building my way to the light. So I'm using, I can even put, I feel like I want to put a little orange down in through here too. I feel like I see a little bit down in through here. So you can use the orange plus the dark orange just so you have the orange represented, but it's not screaming in your face, this is super bright orange. So I love to use these brighter tones or brighter colors like the fluorescent orange, but tone it down. So that's where I'm using the dark orange also with the light orange right now to kind of make my way to my lightest places. And again, you don't have to have it exactly as the photo. That's going to be your call as to how vibrant you want it to be. I've got some little pockets up in through here that are working their way towards those lighter tones. A couple of little ones in through here. And I'm just working my way towards what's going to be my yellower kind of tones on some of these exterior kind of leaves. Again, I don't want it to be too bright. I'm just being mindful of that. It's hard not to. I can attest to that. It's just, you know, as you're doing this, it's really tough to not be, you know, oh, I love this orange, let me just put it everywhere. Because if I want it to look on the more natural side, I've got to refrain from going too over the top with the vibrancy of it. So I like that. I think I'm now going to start incorporating that light orange with whatever's on my brush right now. So I have a bit of orange, I have a bit of dark orange, and then I can just start kind of popping in these. I have too much paint on my brush. Hold on. Let me just wipe my brush off. Sometimes I overdo what's on my brush, so I just wipe my brush off so I can remain in control. And then I'm just going to kind of tap in these lighter colors right on top. So I can, I know also that I am working on top of wet paint. So I'm kind of doing a little wet on wet in through here, which is super fun to do. But if you're going through yours and you're saying, oh, I need to wait for it to dry, then just let it dry. You don't have to muscle through it blending too much. That's the risk that you run as you're working kind of wet onto wet. But if you want to just wait, you can certainly do that. I feel as though I want to use my light orange plus my dark orange over in through here, because I feel as though I don't want it to go too light. So I just needed to kind of do something mid-tone there, so I picked up some of my dark orange plus my light orange just to again capture some of this fullness, and just kind of tapping in these couple of lighter pockets. I do want to use a little bit of red too, so I'm picking up a little bit of red on my dirty brush just to get a couple of little deeper tones, maybe up and through here. And again, you can see I'm being very reserved when it comes to what I'm adding right now, just kind of allowing myself to just add these little bits here and there, not going overboard. Feels like I can add a little bit more of my yellow, or my light orange I should say, over in through here. And you can certainly add more orange or more yellow too if you wanted to. You can pick up a tiny bit of yellow. I would be careful with the yellow too, so it doesn't go too much on you. But I'm kind of feeling like that's looking pretty good. I feel as though I need to add some dark something in through here. So I'm gonna actually pick up, or I'm gonna wash my brush. I feel as though I could use a little bit more of the brownish tones, so I'm gonna go with light green and brown on my brush right now. So light green and brown, just to kind of push a couple of this, little bit of this back just a little bit further. So you could, you might find that yours looks, exactly the way that you want it to, but if you're going through something like this and you're thinking something needs a little bit more edge to it, then maybe something as simple as that can do it for you. And then if you want, like I feel as though underneath here probably could use a little bit more darkness. And those are just the little, once you've got everything kind of in place, you can start fiddling with those little values of just certain areas to push something underneath or pull it more forward. I feel like I could use a little bit of this brown maybe up in through here too. So just these darker tones can really add that extra bit of depth into the tree. I'm kind of trying to keep some of these lighter areas, just making sure I've got as much darkness as I want. And then once you've got enough darkness, that dark orange is just doing it for me. I'm gonna put a little bit more dark, just picked up a little bit more dark orange, just putting a little bit more of that up in these guys and through here, even maybe pop a couple little sporadic spots up in through here. I just am really digging the way that color is playing. With others, a little bit of orange on my brush, and now I'm just kind of fiddling. I'm putting my head back. I'm saying, okay, what more do I want to do with this? Do I want a little bit more of my dark orange over here? Yes. Do I want a little something yellow over here? Yeah, maybe I'll just pick up a little bit of yellow on my dirty brush and maybe just pop in a couple of little greener, I know I said yellow, but my brush is dirty, so it's giving it just a little extra tone to those leaves in through there. So now you just kind of fiddle with it. If I wanted a little bit more over here, I'm just picking up yellow on my dirty brush, and it's just adding a couple additional little golden tones for me that are tying it all together. And if you feel as though it's a little disconnected and you feel as though you want to, like what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking a little bit of yellow on my dirty brush and kind of tying everything together with these little vibrant yellow hues. My yellow tends to be transparent, so it's gonna take on a lot of the colors that are underneath it. So I can use this to harmonize all of these different tones that I've put into it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then once I've got this in a place that is comfortable and pleasing to my eye, I am going to be using, just sticking my head back here, seeing if I want to do anything else. I'm going to be using my number 5 round brush for the next step. So again, if you can certainly fiddle with this as much as you want. You don't have to call it now on yours. You can certainly continue to fiddle. But when you're done, we're going to be using a medium round brush. So you can just you know, get ready for that step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to paint the base coat for my fence and my 2 foreground trees. There's a couple of little cute pine trees over here that I wanted to capture. So I'm going to be using my number 5 round brush, which I probably continue to say number 6 round brush, because I usually am using a 6, but today I wanted to use a 5. I'm going to be using, for colors, gray, white, and dark green, and maybe a little bit of black too. I'm going to pre-mix a light gray color, which I have magically done on my palette. How I did that is my gray and my white. So just gray and white, and made a lighter shade. If you didn't have any more gray left, you can just make a light shade of gray with black and white. Once I have that, I am ready to start painting. So I'm going to give you a couple of little markers for your fence, and then we'll paint it in. I am adding a little bit of water to my brush, my bristle, so I have it nice and pointy and I can give myself some smaller lines. So in the photo, the fence comes a little bit to the right of my barn. So I'm going to go up a little bit from the right-hand bottom corner and just give myself a vertical line that's probably about an inch tall, goes just down past the bottom. It's not very wide, just maybe about an inch or so tall. And then I'm going to come all the way over to the left hand side of my canvas and give myself the other post right at the edge of my canvas. So this one is going to be at least twice as wide as that one, and let's see, if this one is about an inch, then this one is probably an inch and a half to 2 inches, somewhere along that. That's going to be that one. So that's going to be my smallest one and my biggest one. I'm going to connect those with 3 lines. So this fence post just has, or this fence has 3 rails going across. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just kind of from a little bit below the top of it. I'm not pressing my brush very hard. When I do this, I'm keeping my eye on the prize. My prize is just below the top of this one. So if it makes it easier, you can just kind of do whatever method works for you. You could certainly draw it out. I'm just going to keep, I can see in the photo that the rail goes across the barn right around here. So that's, I'm using the photo in relationship to where the lines are in order to place them where I want. I do notice that the bottom of my tree in the photo comes lower than where I've put mine. So I might adjust that if I feel it's necessary later, but right now I'm just going to paint it this way. It does make sense if your rail is a little bit more narrow on this side than this side, but I wouldn't necessarily totally worry about that yet. I would first concentrate on getting your 3 lines in there, and then you can worry about making them any different. So this is about midway down the post and just kind of pulling it back here, keeping my eye on the prize, which is halfway down this guy. Oops. Something like this. And bringing it right into here. And then I'll do my 3rd one. Again, water on my brush is my friend because it is keeping my bristles in control, and it's also allowing me to pull a really long line because it's super fluid. In the photo, the fence, the rail comes up just a little bit higher than the bottom of the post. So I'm going to just start up just a little bit higher, something like this, and then just kind of ride this down. And look at that, most of the bottom of my barn is being disguised right now, so that's a beautiful thing. So you don't have to worry about any of those details along the bottom there. Just watching my end line here to see, oops, that's going to be a little crooked, that's fine. And just always remember, this is an old farm fence. So don't worry about your lines being perfect. This the fence is pretty nice in the photograph, but it'll be okay if you make yours a little more rustic. So once I've got that in place, I could certainly sit and fiddle with my lines to make sure that they're as thick or as thin as I want them to be. So I definitely know that I want them a little bit wider over here on the left-hand side. So I'm pushing my brush a little bit firmer. And again, I'm totally okay with mine being, you know, a nice rustic fence. I'm now going to put my posts on. So you can have these even, you can have them not even. That's going to be your judgment call. I think I'm just going to kind of fly through mine. I think the trick here is just to keep them vertical. So, and I'm going to kind of do the same number that are in the picture. So in this section of the picture, there is 5, including that end one. So I could do 1, 2, 3. So you get to hear me count too. 4 and 5. So something like that. And then of course it makes sense if they get wider as they come towards the left as well. Once I cross over into this section, it looks like there's 4 in here too. So, but again, you definitely don't need to make yours exactly at 1. Where am I going to put that last one? Maybe that one goes here. 2, and then 3, and 4. And in the photo, the tops are kind of square, but I'm not worried about stuff like that. You can worry about stuff like that if you want, all you want. And then coming to from here to here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. So if I kind of just look almost in the center like that, and then I can put 2 on this side and 2 on the left side. So we got 1 here, and then maybe 1 here, and then 1 here. And again, these ones that are coming towards the left-hand side of the canvas can clearly be a little bit wider. So that looks pretty good. So that's all I'm going to do. Well, you can certainly like fiddle again with your rails or posts, whatever. But that's all I'm going to do for the fence itself, for the main or for the base coat. I'm going to switch gears now and wash my brush and put some of my dark green on it. So my dark green is going to be the base coat for the little foreground pine trees. So there's 2. There's one right in through here and then one flanking the corner here, and they're on this side of the fence. So I can use my dark green to just kind of give myself my, well, let's go dark green and black for the trunk. So dark green and black, and I can see it kind of just like is right in through here and comes right down into here. And I'm noticing also that this whole grassy area on the photo is light too, but that's all right. We're just gonna roll with it this way because I like it right up next to the barn. So green plus, or dark green plus a little bit of black. My other trunk is coming somewhere in through here, and we're gonna pull this right down into here. And then the top of this one kind of comes, I would say, somewhere in through here. And the top of this one is almost right up at the top of here. So now I know like where the structures of them are. So I can just sit here and say, okay, well the bottom of this one comes to like here and here. And now I can just start dotting. This is just, these are really fun like little pine trees, evergreen trees. So I can just kind of use the photo to give me a little bit of structure as to where it's placed. And then I'm just using a little bit of my dark green plus a touch of black to get this base coat on here. And a little pine tree like this, most evergreen trees are typically shaped kind of in a triangular type of shape where they're pointy at the top and then they get wider down at the bottom. and that's what I'm seeing in these little guys, so that's how I'm emulating that shape and making it probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but that's okay. This one over here is actually a little bit more in the light, so it's going to eventually be a little bit lighter in color than this one, but because this one's getting shadowed by that big tree. Let's see here. I've got the right side of this covers this little edge of the fence, and the left side comes a little bit past this edge of the fence, or that little corner. So then again, I'm just, now that I've got my little barriers, I can sit here. It's covering this whole right edge of my building. So I can certainly just kind of tap that in there and let that happen, because that's what I'm seeing. And there's, this doesn't really need anything, but if you feel like, I feel like I just need more little depth back there. Again, just my dark green, kind of getting this on in through here. This kind of pops out a little bit there, and then a little bit in through here, and then a little pointy up at the top. And then once you've got this done, we're going to be using our small round brush for the next step, so you can just get it ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the fence, these foreground trees, and any little fiddling I want to do on the ground, because I see a couple things I want to do. I'm going to be using my number 0 round brush. The colors I'm using are black, light green, white, dark green, and gray, and maybe some brown. And if there's any other colors I use, I'll let you know. So what I first want to do is I feel as though in the photo this fence seemed to be, or my tree, the tree in the photo and this back line were a little bit lower. So I'm okay with that. I just need to get, my fence didn't hide it as much as it did in the photo. So I just want to kind of fiddle with this little edge a bit here. So I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint with a little bit of water. And I'm just going to kind of get this backside of the tree to meet that ground just a little bit more. So just kind of adding a little bit more detail in through there. Same thing with the bottom of this tree line. Just want to make sure it doesn't look unfinished. So it did look unfinished before this very moment. So something like that. I'm also going to put a little bit of my light green and white on my brush, just to kind of give myself just a couple of little extra little pieces of pops in through there. Again, just to make sure that that looks finished. There we go. I'm going to wash my brush now, and I'm going to tackle my fence. So my fence, I want to have highlights on the top because my light source is up top. And I also want like this section of the fence to be a little shadowed. So I'm going to start with my gray and a little bit of brown on my brush. So gray and brown. And I'm going to kind of darken up this area where this shadow is in through here. So I can just take a little bit of, well, maybe more brown than gray. So just a little bit of brown is on my brush right now to just darken up a little bit a couple of these that are within the shadow of the tree. So something like this. And you can really, as you're doing yours, if you're feeling comfortable with putting your posts on one side and your rails on the other, in the picture you can't really tell which side that they're on, so just feel free with fiddling with that all you want. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and I'm going to brighten up certain parts of my fence. So I'm going to put these little bright caps on the top. This one I think I could get away with. I can also put this little light line down the top side of my rails, something like this. And I'm just going fast through mine. If you wanted to take much more time on yours than I'm doing, you certainly could do that. I just want to get this nice light area on the top, and then I can even put some light marks down the side. So it would just be in these little peekaboo spots in between the rails. You can put that little highlight on the post. That'll give you just a little extra more realistic kind of pop to it. So something like that. And I'll do that over on the other side as well. These guys in through here, the ones that are in the light. So that tree is being shadowed, but these little guys here still seem like they're in the light. So I'm actually following right now my painting, not the photograph, because my shadows ended up different. My highlights and my shadows ended up different than they are in the photograph. So I'm now seeing that this is in the light, so that's where the highlights are going to come into play. And then all these guys are in the shadow, so I'm going to shadow those guys like I did the ones that are being shadowed by the tree. So just know that, again, if you understand your fundamentals of, you know, putting those highlights and shadows and stuff on, you can work through a change that might have happened if you are working from a photo reference. I'm actually putting a little bit of my gray and a touch of white on my brush because I do need to lighten up just a little bit the tips of these guys in through here, just so they don't look flat. So there we go. And I'll do the same thing with these ones that are in the shadow. I'm going to pick up brown plus my gray. So brown plus a little bit of gray. Give myself a little shadows on these guys. And that's the beautiful part about, you know, the more you paint, the more you can grasp onto these concepts that will help you work through a lot of different issues when it comes to just the fundamentals of painting and design. So you can, you know, I can see that this is in the shadow of the building because the feet of it are. It might, the top of it might, like the top of these guys might be in the light. So if I think that they're catching a little bit of light, I can go into my white and my gray and maybe just pop a little bit on the tops of these guys in through here. And then I can talk about the shadow of them. So I could take these guys, pick up a little bit of my dark green and say, okay, well, the shadow of the building's right in through there. So maybe if I felt that these would come, they probably wouldn't because the light source is so high. But I do need some shadows underneath the other posts. So I'm going into my dark green, putting a little bit of shadow. These guys have it already. This one needs one. So a little bit of shadow underneath my posts. And I'll do the same thing with the rail. Just getting these on. And I'm using a little bit of watered down dark green right now so I can get these longer lines. And then I'm just going to pull these really skinny lines right through the grass. And this is going to look like the fence is casting a little bit of a shadow right onto the grass. So if I wanted to, I could certainly do 3 really clean lines, but I'm just going to do some, and they're really close together because of the angle, but I'm just going to kind of sketch on these little skinny lines. That looks pretty cool. I need one just up at the top. Something like that. And I'm just sketching it through the grass because it's going to be, you know, not super visible, but it's still there to make sense. So I like that on my fence. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit these guys right in through here. So washing my brush. On these guys in the photo, this one is lighter because it seems like it's catching more of the light. So I actually feel like I could get away with a shadow of this tree on the ground. So I just put some dark green on my brush and then it's road. So I'm going with my original gray color, similar to what I did on this guy here. And then I'm just going to pull a little bit into this road, something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. And washing my brush again. So this one I'm going to use a lot of light green right now. I'm picking up some light green, and I'm just going to start tapping on the light side of this tree. It's really light around these edges. And I'm just using these small, tiny little polka dots to get this light color on here. And then mostly on this left-hand side. Once I got that light color kind of polka dotted in there, I can pick up a little bit of my dark green plus my light green and get myself to transition over to that right side of the tree. So dark green plus light green. So it's still got some of those dark little notes in it, and I'm just really polka dotting it so I can get some texture within it, but keeping that left side lighter. I'm actually going to go light green plus a touch of white because in the picture there's some really bright little pops up and through here. So that looks pretty to me. Yeah, I like that. Maybe just a little bit more in through here. And then I can tackle this one over here. I'm going to go dark green plus a little bit of black because this one to me has a little bit more darkness in through here. A little bit more shadow down on this bottom side of it. And then as I go towards the top, I can start picking up just the dark green on my dirty brush. Just make sure that that is filled in enough. So dark green is being added. Just make sure it's not see-through. And then I can pick up a little bit of my light green over here on the left-hand side. It doesn't appear to be as bright as that one because it looks like it's kind of in the shadow a little bit of this tree right here. So we're just gonna allow little bits and pieces to pop in through there. And then I do need to do something with the trunk. I just picked up a little bit of black because I bumped into it when I was doing my fence. So a little bit in through there. Make sure I've got this one on over here, picking up a little bit of black on my dirty brush. And this left one needs a shadow. Just pull this out. Something like that. That looks good. And then a little tiny highlight. I'm going to pick up a touch of brown and white for a highlight on the trunk. Just a little highlight on this one. And then we are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. Ooh, I think I could use a little tiny dark shadow right underneath these guys here. So underneath the fence too, if you feel as though that fence needs any additional kind of little bits of darkness, you could certainly do that as well. And then we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I'm going to be using my number 0 round brush. I think I'm going lower left with orange. Maybe it'll look like a little leaf or something. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you can certainly sign yours however you'd like. You can make up a fun symbol. You can sign it on the back. You can hide it in the painting, kind of like I'm doing right now. This was not intended to be a total hide, but I'm digging the way that it's looking over here. So we're going to leave it just as is, as subtle as it is. And then that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a pretty autumn themed painting, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.